Alright folks, we're going to talk about slope. So when we talk about slope, we're talking about change in our incline or decline of a line. So we talk about vertical change and horizontal change. So our horizontal change is our left to right change, and our vertical change is our up down change. So in order to talk about the vertical change between points A and B and the horizontal change between those points, we need to know where these points are first. So let's attack that. Now, I'm just going to get the coordinates of each one of these points. So point A is located at -4, -1. Point B is actually a y-intercept here. This is 0, +2. Point C is 4, 5. And our last point, point D, is located at 8, 8. Alright, so those are my 4 points. So when I look at the vertical change between points A and B, I went from -1 to +2. Alright, so that's a vertical change of 3. I went 3 up. Alright, A to C, I went from -1 to C is +5, and that's a change of 6. If I count this out, I'm at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I went change of 6. Okay, and points C and D. So point C is at 5 and D is at 8. And I'm just looking at their vertical, I'm looking at their Y values. Alright, so 1, 2, 3. I went up 3. That's a change of 3. That went from 5 to 8. Okay. Now we're going to look at the horizontal change. So I'm going to switch colors just so we're doing it in a different color here. We could see, not to try to get them too mixed up. So A and B. So I went from -4 to 0. And that's a change of 4. If I leave -4 and I go to 0, I've moved 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. Points A and C, how far apart are those points? Well, I went from -4 to +4. So if I counted that out, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4, and then another 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's a change of 8. Alright, points C and D. 1, 2, 3, 4 apart. I went from 4 to 8. Okay, that's a change of 4. Okay. So when we talk about slope, we're talking about the ratio of the vertical change to the horizontal change, and that gives me the slope of the line. So the slope is equal to the vertical change over the horizontal change, which is the change in y over the change in x, and we can write change of or change in y with this triangle. This is delta. This triangle is delta. So this is delta y over delta x. Okay, so when I talk about this, and this gives me the slope, and slope is abbreviated as m. Okay, we say m. So when I'm finding the slope of a segment of a line and I'm going from A to B, well, I said that my vertical change was 3 and my horizontal change was 4. That's m. Alright, let's try A and C. A and C, the change is 6, and I have a change of 8 is my horizontal change. Well, 6/8 is equal to 3/4. It's equal to m. Okay, and then C and D, again, 3 over 4. Change from C to D, 3/4. That's M. So what do I notice about the slope of the lines here, here, and here? They are the same. Okay, so I have this nice pretty line going across this graph here, and I notice that between any of the 2 points on there, whether it's A and B, A and C, or C and D, I have the same slope along this line. And that looks right, because if I look at this line, it doesn't bend or curve or have any breaks in it. It's one continuous line all the way across there. All right? So what does your answer here tell me about the points on the line? Number 6, what does your answer for number 5 indicate about points on a line? That a line has the same slope throughout. That means that if I chose any other point, like if I chose this point right here, and I did a slope from here all the way up to here, point D, it would still simplify to 3/4. It would still be 3/4 no matter what. No matter what 2 points I choose, the change in Y over the change in X would be the slope continuously throughout this line. All right, so let's attack some stuff here. Slope is often referred to as rise over run. What do we mean by rise over run? Well, rise is up and down, so that's my change in Y. And run we refer to as left and right. That would be my change in X. So that's what we say when we say rise over run. We're talking change over Y, change in Y over change in X, which again we write as delta Y, delta X, which I didn't do a good job making a delta there. And then again we refer to slope as M. Okay, so when I say rise over run, when I say change in Y over change in X, when I say delta Y, delta X, when I say M, and when I say slope, I'm talking the same exact thing. And there's even one more thing that we can talk about. Since slope is constant, I have a constant rate of change on this line. Okay, and we'll talk more about that later. But my slope is constant. It's constant throughout the entire line. All right? Now, would the slope change if you counted the run before you counted the rise? So on my previous, my slope was 3/4, okay, on my previous problem. Would it change if I put run over rise? Well, of course it would. It would be 4 over 3, and that's run over rise. And that's a different slope. It's not the same, so we can't do that, okay? We can't do that at all. So we have to think of this as rise over run, or change in Y over the change in X. And we'll get more into calculating that in just a moment. So again, we use delta to represent change. Now you will see a lot of this. This is the meat and the potatoes of the entire lesson. In fact, it's most of Algebra 1 right here. Determine the slope of the line graph below. Well, I know that I can choose any 2 points on this line because of our previous work. I can choose any points on this line and do the change in Y over the change in X. So I want to make it easy on myself, and I want to choose nice, pretty points. And what I mean by that is I'm not going to choose like 1.5 and 1 3/4. I'm going to choose something easy, like this point right here is 0, -3. And this point right here is 7, 0. Okay? So if I leave 0 and I go over to 7, my change in X, because I'm doing my run here, I guess, my change in X is 7. And my change in Y, if I leave -3 and I go to 0, my change in Y is 3. And I got that just by thinking, oh, if I leave 0, I would go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 spots, and now I'm here. And if I go up 1, 2, 3 spots, I'm there. So what we refer to this as is our slope triangle. Okay? I went over 7 and over 3. So, or excuse me, over 7 and up 3. My change in x was 7, my change in y was 3. You could think about this in another way. I don't want to get too into it, but if you left this point and went over 7 and down 3, it would get you to the same spot. Your change in y is still 3. Your change in x is still 7. Okay? So it's 3 over 7. So my slope, which again is m, again is my change in y over my change in x, is 3/7. We always express slope as a ratio, so it normally looks like a fraction. There are cases where it will be a decimal, but we prefer to keep it as a fraction. So what are you going to do now? You're going to attack the problems that are inside of Schoology, and that is going to help you. This right here is going to help you with those particular items. Okay?